Hello and welcome to another outstanding edition of It's a Sports Show. I'm Scott Cray, as always flanked by Dolphin Paul and Yo Christmas Tree.
We're still in Christmas mode. The week after Christmas, getting ready for a Happy New Year.
Yep. We got lots to
and
talk about.
Lots of sports.
We got some emails to talk about. Of course, Johnny Damon is not such new news, although it's fresh in everyone's mind, but it's new news to us because that happened the day after we shot our last show. But we're going to talk a little bit Patriots and, of course, Monday Night Football. While we're struggling to get to our, 112th show, I think. Monday Night Football done. They're 555th and last.
555th. ABC no longer with Monday Night Football.
Yep.
I don't understand why. I guess, it's too much money. It's too much money, but after so many years, it's more of a tradition. And
yeah, that's what it,
ABC
like,
Monday Night Football, 555th broadcast, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They opened in 1970. Ironically, New York Jets at Cleveland.
Imagine that.
Score was 31-21.
Imagine that.
Last night, 31-21. Patriots over the woeful Jets.
That's unbelievable that would be a story in itself, let alone the fact that, it's the last one of the year and that happens. I'm disappointed. Like you said, it's all about tradition at this point. You got a powerhouse like ESPN already charging the cable companies big bucks to carry them, and in turn, that means the subscribers are paying more. And, I'm not the anti-ESPN. I watch SportsCenter every day. It's about the only way on TV to catch a summary of everything that's going on. It's just, it's like Big Daddy coming in and buying it out.
Well, it's almost inevitable in this day of big bucks and so many options sports-wise. I mean, the digital world, cable-wise, movies, sports, entertainment.
That's crazy.
ESPN is paying $1.1 billion per year.
And how long's that contract?
How do you make that up? That's unbelievable. It's just an 8-year deal.
Which is,
so $8.8 billion. That's
pretty short term if you think about it.
$1 billion.
That's unbelievable.
Well, that's a lot of dough. And unfortunately for us, it's going to change as sports fans because now it's ESPN Monday Night Football, which is kind of odd. And Sunday, now NBC has the package to that Sunday night game.
Right.
And I think they're going to go with Al Michaels and Joe Theismann.
Who is? That's
which
ESPN
I'm not.
Is?
No, that's going to be the
Sunday night's game.
Sunday night.
How about the ESPN Monday night game now? Is that going to be the normal Sunday night lineup, which is?
No, I don't think so. That's being changed also.
So we don't know who's going to host.
I don't think they've.
It's not going to be Joe Morgan, is it?
Joe Morgan, Joe Buck.
Baseball's Joe Morgan. I will never watch Monday Night Football again if it is baseball's Joe Morgan doing that game.
Yeah, so things are going to change here. So it's.
That's too bad because you know what? Not everybody on the planet has cable. First of all, some people just stick with their plain old television, and you'll be able to watch Monday Night Football on plain old television. But furthermore, now with satellite coming in, you'd still pick up ESPN.
Oh, Monday night might be. I wish we had that. I think Monday night might be Al Michaels and Joe Theismann, because Joe Theismann's ESPN, but whatever it is, I'm not a big fan of Joe Theismann. He's got a big head on himself, and as soon as the game starts, I love the way he's tying his shoe. Yeah. I love the way he went around the corner. It's a little bit over the top,
great.
But it's all going to change. But I guess the NBC package on Sunday, of course, they haven't had it in a while.
Right.
So NBC is going to make a big to-do. They're going to have a big pregame,
right?
To compete with ESPN. So
I wonder if ESPN will do anything edgier that we haven't seen yet. ESPN turns it up a notch, and a lot of the networks do, but you could be safe to say that ESPN loves to turn it up a notch more so than anyone else other than maybe Fox.
Right.
Just because they are in the cable world and they can, so you got to wonder what they might do, whether it be in the game, the broadcasting of the game itself, or for that matter, in the commercials that are aired. Although a lot of kids aren't supposed to be up at that time of night anyway, watching it, but it is still after 9 o'clock. So two things. What will ESPN do to change the broadcast of the game? And they're going to do something. They have to make an impact. And secondly, will they keep it at 9 o'clock? Is a good question.
Well, I think that's a contractual thing
is it already worked in?
With Monday Night Football. I believe it's going to stay at 9 o'clock.
It's too bad.
There's been talk about 8:30. They're trying to get that. I guess 8 o'clock didn't work. I'd like to see it go to an 8:30 start.
Why not 8 o'clock?
Well, 8 o'clock because it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast. That's the only thing when everybody driving home and it's Monday Night Football. But I mean,
reason to leave work early.
Aside from that, it's been an unbelievable tradition starting in 1970.
I didn't realize it was that far back until this whole thing came up
Yeah.
yesterday during the game.
And we can go back over the years and
It's just always been them.
Yeah.
Constantly.
a lot of.
It's too bad that these investors could not just hold on to some tradition. You know what I mean? There aren't enough Jason
all about the
Varitek's
dollar.
in the world.
But
yeah,
I mean, I grew up watching Monday Night Football. We all did. Way back when, that's the only place you could get highlights. I mean, being a Dolphin fan, even a Patriot fan, the Patriots weren't on much in those days because of the, they weren't that good in the stadiums and the blackouts. The only time you could get highlights, there was no internet. You couldn't really go on.
Right.
It was, you couldn't go on and check, Florida papers, or if you're a fan of another team, or New England for that matter, you'd wait till Monday Night Football halftime and watch
those are the highlights.
35 seconds of your team. Woo! And that was it.
That was a big deal.
I mean, it certainly has grown, and it's at the end of an era. And the Patriots and Jets will, of course, be a trivia question years down the road.
Absolutely.
Last two teams to play on Monday Night Football.
And start Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football.
That's weird that would happen. So anyway, moving on to the Patriots.
Moving on to the Patriots.
All of a sudden, they look like this Super Bowl-bound team. The general consensus is we're looking at the Super Bowl now. And we talked about this last week. Just a few weeks ago, they were dismal. They were in a bad situation. But, hey, the injuries are out, and we understand. Now, all of a sudden, they just look like the regular Patriots.
Well,
They're just rolling.
it's classic New England end-of-the-year run. We talked about it last week. I mean, I think the big changes are defensively. They've gotten some guys back, although Teddy Bruschi got hurt in the Monday night game.
Right.
I think they're saying it's not a fracture or anything of his leg. Sante Samuel got banged up a bit. But defensively, I mean, they played the Jets. And on this, not to take anything away from the Patriots because they've certainly played well and dominated teams, but on this stretch that they've had, they played the Jets twice, Buffalo.
Yeah, but you know what?
And
The
Tampa
Jets
Red home.
play the Patriots tough every time, especially playing in New York.
But Tom Brady's sharp. Again, I think defensively is where they're at, and they seem to turn it on towards the end of the year.
Tom Brady does not seem to be bothered by that ankle at all.
No, I don't think so.
He's not a super mobile.
He threw that one interception to I fought the law and the law won.
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, it was all Patriots. The score's not even indicative. I mean, the Jets scored a couple touchdowns late there. But Patriots right now are rolling. They play the Miami Dolphins this week.
Poor Miami.
Whether or not they try to advance and jump over Cincinnati for that third or fourth seed, I don't know. I mean, I think at this point, you're probably better off being a fourth seed because they would host Jacksonville and go to Indy. If they were the fourth seed, they'd probably host Pittsburgh and go to Denver. So, depending on what they do that they want to do with their players, whether they play them or not, I mean, they're playing the following week. It's not like years past where they've had that bye.
Either way, they're not going to get the bye. So
no, they're not going to get the bye. So it'd be interesting to see who they put out there because they're playing at the same time as Cincinnati. So you really don't know. Cincinnati's in the same boat. I mean, I don't know if they really want to improve. Carson Palmer's a little bit banged up. Those guys have to play the following week, which I think could deter the Patriots from a Super Bowl run because that first week, you have to play. It's your last game.
I think that makes a world of difference.
Well, it makes a world of difference. I know, a lot of times people talk about Miami not advancing, but they haven't been able to secure a bye.
Right.
And I remember a few years ago they played the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
And they played a tough game, overtime game. Lamar Smith was the running back. He ran for like 35 times for 200 and change. He set a playoff record. They won in overtime. Anyway, the short of the story is he could hardly get on the plane to go to Oakland, cross country. He got crushed by Oakland. So I think that makes a big difference. So it'll be interesting to see how those teams.
Well, it's like you mentioned. You got the choice of playing, Pittsburgh or would it be Cincy?
Jacksonville at this point.
Well, see, both teams kind of defensive, bang-you-up type teams.
Jacksonville's a warm weather team coming up in the cold.
Yeah.
Probably have a little more of an advantage. They're both physical teams. So, I mean, I know a lot of fans are looking past that game and onto Indy.
Which is crazy.
But to be careful because the Jacksonville game is tough. But this weekend's a lot of questions. A lot of teams who really can improve their seeding. So I'm curious to see how Belichick plays this game.
I say rest the guys because even though you don't have the bye week like you're saying, if you rest your guys, it's almost the same as giving them some sort of bye week in that fashion. So, the guys want to play. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, they better rest their guys because we got a freight train coming into town. My Dolphins, 5 in a row.
Yeah,
we're on fire. 8-7. Hey, 8-7.
It's kind of funny.
We've doubled our win total.
It's funny to see a team string off 5 in a row a little too late, but it's good to see a team still playing. Because at this point, they actually, as of like 2 weeks ago, they couldn't get anything.
Yeah, last week, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, with Miami, it's all about the future. It's Saban's first year. You'd have to say that the players obviously bought into what he's preaching.
Absolutely.
I know Bill Belichick was quoted as saying that Saban's one of the smartest defensive coaches he ever met.
Yep.
So I know they're friends and everything. So
That's
hey,
good credit for him.
We'll see what happens. But I think I don't know if the Patriots want to improve their seeding or not. Interesting to see how they play it out. I certainly wouldn't play the regulars for the whole game.
Right.
I think it'd be dangerous.
I think you're right. We're always looking for your feedback. It's a sportsshow@yahoo.com. Keep sending in your emails. And the email of the week comes from Joe. Don't know where he's from. Just Joe.
Just average Joe.
We said last week we wanted to hear about your scenarios and either what you thought the Patriots should do with these upcoming weeks, or for that matter, what you see the two teams are to be in the Super Bowl. Joe, obviously a New England fan, obviously taking the Patriots like most New England fans are suddenly doing, and I don't know if there's any reason to say you shouldn't think that way. He's going Pats Giants, and we mentioned this on the show last week. I think it's a little far-fetched. It's certainly, if the two teams that went to the Super Bowl were the teams that were picked by viewers in this area, Pats Giants, full-blown down.
There is a heavy fan base of both teams. I mean, the Patriots, because obviously their success, and then New England, and a lot of the older crowd,
those 30s
were
to
Giants
40s
fans,
to 50s.
were Giants fans. But
Giants back in the day. Giants coming off a loss, though, and that was a blow.
They're coming off a loss, yeah. They struggled against Washington, and Eli Manning, I don't think is ready to take their next step. I think he's going to be good. I just don't think they have it. I mean, Tiki Barber, possible MVP candidate. But, I mean, you got, the NFC is still a little bit wide open, but they'd have to, for the Giants to get to the Super Bowl, they'd have to probably go at Chicago or at Seattle, who's probably the hottest team in the league.
Seattle would be tough. Chicago's good. That would be a good game, though.
I don't think this is a Giants team. They could possibly beat Chicago because of Chicago's offense.
Right.
Although Rex Grossman has made a pretty big difference. Now they can score like 2 touchdowns a game, where before they could only score 7.
Right.
But that makes a big difference. And Chicago, with that tremendous defense, is on fire. So a little too early for the Giants. The Patriots, hey, they're the champs. As much as I hate to say it, until you can knock them off,
don't count them out.
They're still the champs, and don't count them out when you got a guy like Tom Brady, Bill Belichick.
Over and over again, it's all about momentum, and this team has some of the most momentum.
It's not how you play early in the year; it's how you play late in the year. And the Patriots they seem to know that.
The Patriots, Seattle, a couple of teams playing very well. One team that got knocked off its horse, the Colts, and coming at the wake of a tragedy with their head coach's son.
Absolutely, yep.
Our condolences from the show go out to his family, the Dungy family, and it's just
James Dungy, 18 years old, who
it's unbelievable.
Who apparently committed suicide. Now that leads us to a whole other subject that we could talk about: is NFL coaching.
Yeah, maybe we'll save that after the Super
Yeah,
Bowl
I mean
season.
these coaches, they pretty much work 24/7. So who knows what's going through Tony Dungy's mind right now? But it certainly puts things in perspective.
Right.
And the Colts, as far as the game goes, they really, they didn't play anybody. They played the regulars for a quarter or so.
Right. And
So it remains to be seen how they're going to be affected by this kind of long layoff, because they really haven't had to play for anything in 2 weeks now, going on a third week, and then a week off, and then a playoff game. So, hey,
well, like I said, this, we said this last week before this tragedy. It's all about momentum, we say, in a positive way. So why not in the fact that if you don't have the momentum, and what I mean by is you have players on the bench, you have your star players not playing, you're losing, that's got to say something, you know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they pop in after their off week and get right back to normal.
It's hard. I don't think, I'd like to I hate to ride the fence on this one, but what do? It's like you don't want to. You want to give the players some time off, but you want it to stay sharp. So I think it's a very fine line.
Sure is.
As far as what you do, I mean, they literally will have to turn it on that first playoff game, whether it be the Patriots, the Jaguars, excuse me, whoever goes to Indianapolis.
Yep.
They're going to have to be sharp.
Absolutely.
In the Dome, I still think they're the most talented team in football.
Yep.
And they certainly could get it done. But, a team like the Patriots, who is in the back of their minds, they beat the Patriots the last time when the Patriots were, let's face it, not very healthy.
Right.
Hey, I mean, you never know. You never know.
You get a 1-2. Tony Dungy apparently said through the press He's very strong. He's a man of the faith, and he'll get through it. You got to wonder if he'll come back. I would venture to guess he would, but when would be too soon or too late? When we talk about how a head coach works 24/7. Well, when they're not there anymore, you're missing a big chunk of the pie. How well can this team do without him?
Well,
if he doesn't.
It's funny you say that because I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night, and he said, "Hey, everybody's talking about when he's going to come back or not, and when he should." And my friend who has I don't want to mention his name, who has a...
Which, by the way, folks, it's not a friend, it's the friend. Okay.
Yes, I only have one friend.
The friend of
After
mine.
Mom, it's only one friend. But no, he mentioned something like, hey, it'd be better to get back to work and put the thing behind you. I'm like, oh, hold on.
That's impossible.
I mean, you don't know what he's thinking, so we can't grieve for him. We don't know what's in his mindset. I mean, the kid was only 18 years old.
Right.
I'm sure Tony Dungy has
some
feelings, maybe some form of guilt. I don't know. He shouldn't, by all accounts. Everybody loves him in the NFL. Great family man. But
his son spent a lot of time with him.
He did,
during
but
the football
do you wonder if there's something in the back of his mind saying, hey, I got 3 or 4 other kids. All I do is do football all day. I probably have enough money. So, I mean, that's a tough situation.
You're
and, this could also translate in 2 ways. It could bring down the Colts, or it could be win-one for the Gipper type thing.
Right.
So
it's interesting because I can't recall a time that this type of tragedy has happened to a coach to this extent.
Right before, the timing of it is kind of odd.
We've had a lot of players. Brett Favre is a perfect example.
Right.
We see what Brett Favre does after, and it's happened to him twice.
Well, Monday night he had a great game. He threw like 4 touchdowns, I believe it was, when his dad passed away. He played, but still, I just think.
Might be different for a player. You're on.
Well,
the
not
field.
only that, it's a young man, 18 years old. It's a son. I mean, that must be a tough thing. And again, obviously, our prayers go out to Tony Dungy. We're not ESPN. I'm sure he doesn't watch as a sports show, but hey, that's a tough thing, and I certainly wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No, of course not. Anyway, let's move out of. Did you want to sum up anything with the NFL before we?
No. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals had a chance there. They got tripped up at home against Buffalo. That just goes to show you can't think too far ahead in this league.
Right.
I know a lot of people like the old cliche, anybody can beat anybody on a given Sunday. Well, you know what?
It's true.
It's true.
You bet
I mean, if you're not careful, especially a team who hasn't had a lot of success before, like the Bengals, all of a sudden a little bit too full of themselves, got popped at home by Buffalo.
And they have a couple of players that aren't quite completely down to earth. They have a couple of stars. And
Quite down to earth?
Oh, what I mean
My boy Chad Johnson?
They got some boys like Chad Johnson.
Well, he's funny. Did you see when he scored the touchdown?
Yeah. What did he do this
He went to
time?
the sideline, he opened the Christmas bag, and he threw it into the crowd. He gave out footballs and T-shirts signed. I thought that was kind of funny, but,
But the problem is that he's talking with the press on what his next touchdown celebration will be. And maybe he likes being in this limelight because you got 2 stars, Randy Moss. Randy who?
Randy?
Folks that watched football a couple of years ago remember who Randy Moss was. And then, of course, T.O. not there. So Chad Johnson may feel he has a chance to get a little PR attention his way. But the fact of the matter is, do not talk about your next touchdown celebration to the press until it actually happens. He's going to get clocked in that end zone one day. I am telling you, his chin strap is going to get in his head.
They have to win, although they can't improve their seating much.
Yep.
Just a couple other quick things. San Diego Chargers, one of the better teams not to make the playoffs. They're definitely out. They couldn't pull through at Kansas City. Kansas City hanging on for their dear lives. So
who's definitely in now? Who is absolutely, no doubt about it, in some form or fashion in the playoffs?
Well, in the AFC, you got New England, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Denver. That's 5 teams, I believe I mentioned, so there's 1 missing.
Yep.
Basically, if the Steelers win, they're in. If they lose and the Chargers lose, I think the Chiefs are in. There's a couple different scenarios there.
The Chiefs? They're still hanging around?
Yeah, the Chiefs are 9-6, so they get a shot at it. They eliminated San Diego, so it's basically going to come down to the Chiefs of Pittsburgh. All the Steelers have to do is win. They're the most likely
Do you know who
representative.
Pittsburgh is playing? I'm going to pick your mind here and see if you have the schedule. I
don't have the schedule. That's kind of embarrassing to say. I'm not sure
right.
who.
I threw you a cold one there. We'll figure it out. Our fans will figure it out.
Our fans will figure it out.
All right. So anyway, in the NFC.
Well, the NFC, you got the Giants, Chicago, Seattle, and then other than that, you'll have a lot of teams and a lot of 9-6s. Washington,
NFC's
Dallas, Minnesota. Tampa's 10-5, Carolina's 10-5. Atlanta, by the way, with Michael Vick eliminated. So,
Yeah.
but so.
So in the NFC, who's in for sure? Seattle.
Not many teams, but basically Seattle, either Tampa or Carolina, Chicago, and Washington. And
Wow.
I'm sorry, the Giants. So the G-men are
Giants
in.
are definitely in.
No, the G-men are 10-5.
Okay. So
They clinched the playoff berth.
They did clinch a playoff.
Absolutely. So Eli's
I'm
coming.
just asking for Joe's behalf, who wants to see the Pats Giants go at it. You know. What kind of time we got left, Mitch?
About 5 or 6 minutes.
So there you go.
All right, let's close out the football. We'll certainly talk more about the playoff matchups next week.
You got to be excited. I'm excited.
No, I think it's going to be a
gotta
great
be excited.
playoffs. I think there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good matchups. I mean, I don't think there's any one or two teams, maybe besides Indianapolis and Seattle, that you can say are dominant. I mean, they're the
For
most.
some reason, Seattle just sticks out to me. I don't know
Well,
what it is about
they're playing
them.
tremendous, and my
Even more so
my
than
boy
Indy.
Sean Alexander, who tied the touchdown records. I mean, that guy's just a touchdown machine.
Unfortunately for me, in my fantasy season, he was the only one scoring touchdowns for me.
They're 8-0 at home, ironically, and Denver, who by virtue of the Cincinnati loss clinched
Right.
a first round bye. They're going to be tough for somebody to go into Denver and
Denver
beat
is a
them.
tough place to
8-0
play.
at home also.
Yep.
So interesting playoffs, and we'll talk about that
Denver's
next
always
week.
a tough place to play.
Absolutely.
Moving over to
talk
the
a little
reigning
baseball.
Red Sox and the evil empire. They have stole yet another player, and they didn't steal it because they paid an awful lot of money for it. If they came in and said, 3 years, $30 million, and Damon signed, then we'd be a little more ticked off. But Red Sox Nation really ticked. Let's sum things up. Red Sox at one point in, I believe, November, pre-Thanksgiving, offered a 3-year, $27 million deal to Mr. Damon and Mr. Boris, and then up that to a 4-year, $40 million, which was what was currently on the table with a Christmas Eve deadline. Not much banter back and forth on that. Here's the deal. It's on there till Christmas Eve, and no response from Boris and Damon, and then all of a sudden, boom, $52 million, 4 years.
Well, I think the Yankees pressured
Yankees. Yeah, they said
Damon.
midnight,
They had until
said
midnight, or else they were going to pursue other options, and they gave him 13
I wonder what their other options were.
Well-
Or were they just saying this is the way we do it? We offer it, we give you a strict deadline, don't give you any time, and then you're in.
Well, I mean, this is a tricky situation. This is a case where, the player felt disrespected by the home team. I think when you get to the end of the year and you really want to keep a player, I think you have to pursue him aggressively.
Yep.
Now, I know what everybody's going to say. Oh, $13 million, that's too much for Damon. Sure it is, but you're going to overpay when you want somebody.
Yep.
And if you're not going to pay for Damon now, and there's other players that we can talk about the Red Sox have lost, you're going to pay for the guy you want because the other teams know who you need and what you have.
Yep.
So you're going to pay now or later. So if they need a center fielder now, and plus they need a shortstop, first baseman, and a pitcher, let's not forget that. Teams know that. So and agents know that.
And it's a good point you mentioned agents because with some of the ridiculous signings that went on during the winter meetings, Damon and Boris sat back and said, "Oh yeah, baby, look at these signings."
And Scott Boris he's known for that, starting off high. But hey, it's his job to get the. This is
good at his job.
I
You
mean,
can't say that.
There's a couple things I like to say about Damon. Number one, when I heard Yankees,
Surprised?
yeah,
First, how
because
do you feel about this whole thing?
I feel terrible because Damon is a Red Sox. He's a Red Sox. He brought the Red Sox to the
One of the
World
last-
Series.
he's one of the last of the
we identified with him, the idiot, the long hair, the beard. To see him in pinstripes, it's just, I think if it was any other team but the Yankees, we'd say, oh, well, But right to the Yankees, I just think it kills. The only thing I blame Damon for is, if you remember a while back, he came out and said, I'll never go to the Yankees. It's not a
Right.
money thing. I
Back
wish
at the beginning
players
of the
wouldn't
year.
say that.
Yep.
Say, listen, I'm going to have to find the best situation for me. Because it was a money thing.
Right.
And he did go to the Yankees. Oh,
Yep.
they wanted me more. Okay, well, So,
So whose side do you take in this? Do you think Damon was? Do you not blame Damon for doing?
no,
what he
I don't blame him. Like I said, you're talking, a lot of people say, how much money can you have? But listen, $2 million a year for 4 years is $8 million guaranteed.
Right.
It's not like football where, you get to the third year, they say, listen, you're talking $8 million.
Guaranteed.
Okay, for a guy in his 30s, that $8 million could take him to his retirement age.
That might be
well,
the end of it.
I'm just saying that a lot of people say, how much money can you have? Well, listen, it
He'll be
makes a big
36
difference.
years old. He's going to be a beat-up center fielder because he's balls to the wall all the time. What, do you really think he's going to get a contract after that 4 years is over?
Well,
he might get an extension for a
absolutely.
year. That's about it. So that might be it for him.
So the Yankees stepped up, and the Red Sox, unfortunately, it's a tough loss. It's a tough loss, leadership-wise, table setter-wise. Is one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball. Now, I've said that let's give the Red Sox a chance to fill the roster out. We'll see how much it hurts, depending on who.
They're not filling it out.
Well, that's the problem. Between last show and this show, the Red Sox lost Troy Glaus to Toronto, who's going to town, by the way, pitching, and they're picking up everybody. They have to be one of the favorites
we said
now.
That about Baltimore last year.
That's true. Kevin Millwood, as we taped the show on a Tuesday, Monday night, was just signed by the Rangers. The Red Sox, again, they didn't want to go
They're not pulling the trigger.
They didn't want to go the fourth year. They didn't want to guarantee it because he's 32 years old.
Yeah, what do you
so
want?
I don't know how many guys are out there. Now, you know what's going to do because they're so PR conscious? They're going to have to make a big splash and probably overpay or give up a prospect because they're not doing anything.
Absolutely.
So they got Josh Beckett. Millwood would have been Beckett and Millwood. Pitching can outweigh hitting.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, look at that Yankee lineup. Look at the acquisitions the Blue Jays have made. I mean, I'd say right now the Red Sox are the third best team in
right now they
the AL East at least.
They don't have enough players to put on the darn field.
I mean, we'll certainly keep you updated on all those moves, but boy, that's
I don't
that's
blame Damon. I mean, even if it was for the money, like you said, $8 million is a lot of money. You know, I heard the analogy said perfectly. If you're working in a law firm with someone on a smaller scale of money, they've been there for 10 years and they get along with everybody, and another law firm comes along and offers 1/3 raise as well as being a part of a bigger law firm. What are you going to tell them? No, stick here because we love you here. Yeah. No, they're gone.
I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they couldn't go back to the Red Sox, I guess, and say, "Listen, will you match us offer or whatever?" But
you know what?
That's between him and his.
Anyway.
It probably would have done
Red Sox
that.
Management is. At the same token, I will say, seeing Damon at a 4-year, $52 million contract, okay, that fourth year to me is junk. They're going to end up with the same thing as they did with Bernie Williams. Now, if the Red Sox straight up said, we're not pulling the trigger on these deals for these mid-30-year-olds, 4 or 5 year deals, because we want to stay young and we have some great prospects, which they do. Okay, if they came forward and said that, I don't know how acceptable Red Sox Nation would be of that because we expect to win now, especially now that we have won now. But the fact of the matter is, at least it would make sense, and we could look forward and say, the Yankees are not a young team, and that in 3-4 years, the Red Sox could be the dominant team in the AL East for a long time to come.
Yeah, but they don't have those prospects ready. They don't have a center field prospect. But they don't have a shortstop prospect that's ready to go. I mean, there's nobody in place right now. Millwood, even though he went 9-11 last year, had a 2.86 ERA.
He's sick.
He would have been
no doubt about it.
Would have been a nice fit.
Absolutely. You got Big Papi on the team with Veritek the leader. That's all you.
What do you do with Manny now? You probably have to keep Manny.
You don't have a choice.
I don't see where they're gonna go from
Manny
here.
Might be a leadoff hitter next year. Ortiz. How do you like that? And
so,
I'm obviously exaggerating, but I agree with you that losing him to the Yankees is such
killer.
It's a double blow because it's like not only do you lose Damon, you lose him to he's going to kill you. I hate to tell you. He's going to kill you.
And a lot of people on the radio, including another friend of mine, who believes in that you can't
a different friend than the first one you mentioned?
You can't approach negotiations when your rival is competing. You shouldn't approach it different when your rival is competing for the same player. I disagree because if you lose that guy, he's going to your competitor. That's a double whammy. So I agree with that.
The fact of the matter is the Red Sox didn't take care of business before Johnny Damon became a free agent. The Red Sox did not lose Johnny Damon from the Red Sox. The Red Sox lost him from free agency. He was a free agent up to anybody. And the Red Sox were just as competitive in that as the Yankees were.
They gambled and lost.
The Red Sox didn't do anything.
They gambled and lost.
They should have kept him when they had him.
They gambled and lost.
They lost him to free agency.
That's the bottom line. And you know what? I know a lot of people say, "Oh, that's too much money." I could give two cents about what teams pay for a player because, excuse me, you pay $30 to park at Fenway. You pay $6 for a hot dog. So
4-year, $52 million, a lot of money. Now, the Sox offered a 4-year, $40. Do you mean to tell me that if the Sox would have bumped that up to 46, 48, that he wouldn't have signed? I truly believe that if the Red Sox pursued it just a little more, I think Damon would have stayed. Another $6 million would not have killed us, the fans.
Thus begs the question, if Theo were here, folks,
Yeah.
that could be a good email.
Exactly.
If Theo were here, would the Sox still have Damon?
Exactly. Joe and Company, there you go. It's a sports show at yahoo.com. That's a very good one. I like it. Anyway, so that's about it for us. Show
I
number
think so.
112,
We want to wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Down the tubes.
Great
Yeah.
holidays.
I don't think we missed. You know what's going to happen now?
Enjoyed the last week of the NFL.
Something big, because we shoot our show 2 days later, something big happens. It never fails.
Well, we'll just have to comment
Red
it next
Sox
week.
are gonna
Next week we'll
sign.
have all your NFL playoff matchups
Red Sox are going to sign Roger
and some more Red
Clemens.
Sox news. And the Red Sox are going to sign Scott Cray to a new 4-year deal.
I'm going to go play center field, baby!